All right, good afternoon. Thanks for coming. Before we get into us here, I just want to quickly, you know, send thoughts, prayers, condolences to UCF and their football family, and losing a coach and Coach Clark, his wife Janelle, their family. An incredible man, and football lost a really good coach, a really good man, and you know. So I just want to make sure that we keep them in our thoughts and prayers, and we're thinking about everybody at UCF, and like I said, specifically that family. So that being said, on to us. Obviously watching the tape, still feel like I felt after the game Saturday, disappointed in the outcome of the game. I think there's many things throughout the course of a 60-minute football game that that you need to correct from week to week. Obviously the outcome in the individual game, sometimes it hides some of those glaring errors, and when you lose, it puts them right on the front step. So each way, you have to go back and you have to review the tape. You have to tell yourself the truth, and you got to fix them. And that's our task as we head into another conference game. As I turn the page here to Akron, obviously, I got a ton of respect for Coach Moorhead, what he's been able to do in his career. He's got their quarterback and their offense playing at a really good clip right now, finding their rhythm and finding stride. And I think there's some defensive players there that are really good players in our conference that can really disrupt things on our side of the football that way too. So we got to get a good plan together. We got to go have a great week of practice. We got to take the next step in our building here, and then prepare for a hungry team coming in here Saturday afternoon in front of our homecoming crowd. So that being said, I'll take your questions.
Yeah, how much tougher or more frustrating, whatever word you want to use, is it loss kind of like Saturday where your turnovers, your mistakes greatly contributed, instead of just some 38-35 shootout, both teams played great?
Well, I think statistically some of the young guys were doing some research last week. I think in the last 4 years here, we're something like 16-2 when we win the turnover battle and we score first in the game, and now we're 16-3. So, and those two other losses were Ohio State and Illinois, I believe. That when you have them, even though you got more than the other team, they're in critical situations and in tough moments where you don't get any points. What we've gained is momentum off of turnovers here the last couple of weeks, and we just didn't do that Saturday. So, but I think there's a lot of plays through the course of the football game that you look back on, and we got to catch a couple footballs there that we didn't catch. We got to stay on sides in the goal line area. We got to communicate better on the 2-point play. We got to kick the ball inbounds, not out of bounds when we're in a field position struggle. You know what I mean? So we got to play complementary football. We can't self-inflict in certain situations. And when those type of games happen, you get into close football games on the road. They're sometimes more magnified.
I know you're generally always in a 1 week, one game at a time type thing. I don't know, is it magnified anymore when after a loss or being 0-1 in the MAC where it's okay, you just got to win your first one and then the next one,
Win or lose Saturday, there's not 27 hours in the day today. There's still 24. I mean, you're not going to work 24 hours. You have to go to bed at some point in time. You work like crazy to try to find out where the mistakes are, and you work like crazy to go get them fixed, and you give players that I have a ton of trust in the opportunity to do so. And we got to figure out what it is moving forward, where we want to be that way. You got a bye week after this week, and some of these injured guys hopefully will catch their breath and get back and get ready to go. But we got to put together a plan here to go win the game Saturday.
You guys have shown to respond after losses before well. I mean, is that kind of the mindset, last week is last week, this week is this week type thing?
Well, we don't have a choice. I mean, there's not really, the alternative isn't an option. So, you want to get back out there. You want to get back out with the team. And we had a good session this morning on the field. And, just learning, trying to figure out early in the week what Akron does well in all three phases of the game, maybe what they don't do well in all three phases of the game, and then where strategically we feel like we have an advantage and we can take advantage of some matchups. And the cool thing about college football is they're doing the same thing, But I think all across college football, I mean, it's a week-to-week operation. You can't think much down the road. I mean, everybody else wants to think about what November looks like and what December looks like. I've said this for this is 10 years now. Every Monday, this is a week-to-week thing, and you are only as good as what you can do today, and that's the only thing that's going to matter, for this week.
That being said, I mean, obviously, the offense have been clicking the last couple of weeks. A little bit of a struggle on Saturday, but like you mentioned, obviously each matchup, each opponent's different. Is there anything that you saw after seeing the tape that, not surprised you, but just kind of the miscues on offense?
I just gave you all the answers to that. I mean, we dropped some footballs. We, self-inflicted in some tough moments. We had the ball on the 31-yard line, and the first down play was a missed shot play because you're in 4-down territory there. It has a penalty, so it gets backed up. Now you're in 1st and long. We compound that mistake with the sack on the next play, and next thing you know, you're back behind the 50-yard line. Take away an opportunity there. You take away 2 opportunities inside the red zone by turning it over. We got it, in 4-down territory on the 7-yard line. We false start. We go back to the 12. You're out of 4-down territory there. On defense, we give up a 4th and 10 at the end of the game, and we don't communicate well enough to get the thing stopped on the 2-point conversion. And special teams, we kick the ball out of bounds in a pressure situation. Like there's stuff all over the tape here to watch and to figure out. But particularly to the offense, I just gave you all the reasons. I mean, those are self-inflicted things in critical moments where you have to turn that into something. When the punt returner drops the ball on the 10-yard line, you got to get a touchdown. That's just what it is. You need to score touchdowns in the red zone. That's how close games become one-sided games. And if you don't make them one-sided, then teams hang around, and you get into the 4th quarter, anything can happen. And that's all over. That's all over football everywhere, any level.
Yeah, the lack of execution, is that something that, just kind of happens? I imagine you didn't expect that going into the week with the practice, but how does that, with how well you guys were playing at home, I guess, how does that happen on the road?
Well, those are the things. That's the challenge of coaches, and that's the challenge of players. You got to go look at the tape, and you got to tell yourself the truth and fix the mistakes.
Quarterback's obviously magnified, probably unfairly, but what did you kind of see from Tucker going back and watching the tape?
Yeah, he didn't play his best game. That was obvious. But at the other side of that coin too is like we got to help him. There's people around him got to step up and make some plays. When you got to win your one-on-ones, you got to win them. When the ball hits you in the hands, you got to catch it. When you have a one-on-one block that you're going to require us to have enough time to be in rhythm in the passing game, you got to block your guy. It's what it is. It's team football. And in basketball, when the point guard goes 0 for 13, somebody picks him up. Sometimes the quarterback's not going to have the best day, but he's going to own those mistakes. He's going to be really hard and critical of himself, and we have no problem telling him the truth, and he has no problem telling himself the truth. He'd be the first guy to sit up here and tell you all this stuff. So, but I think around him, when those opportunities present themselves, we got to just do a little bit better job.
Is there a competition there? Or just kind of all in?
No. The week of the Western Kentucky game, players, talked about how the previous year added a little fuel or whatever. Last year's game against Akron, is that something that this week is not forgotten?
Again, I think it starts inside out. That's external motivation. So, yes, there's probably some outside energy that can be fed in from that part of it. But if we don't start here in home base from this room and move outward, we don't have a chance anyway. It doesn't matter who we play. So let's get that part of it figured out, and then from there, anything that's external that we can throw on the fire, let's throw it on the fire.
You speak about your experience in the turnovers. How big of a game did Andre Fuller stick out to you?
I was asked this question at Downtown Coaches today. Give me a couple players that feel like I've had a really good start to the season that maybe that have kind of flown under the radar. And I think Dre's kind of flown under the radar. Being injured last year and not being able to participate, not playing. He's got off to a great start this season so far. And, he's a vet. He's a guy that's been around our program for a long time. He understands what the rules of engagement look like and how to put together a good week of practice that ultimately will lead to a good Saturday. And he had another great Saturday this past weekend. So I'm really proud of him, and, we're going to need him to continue the rest of the way.
To piggyback off that, the defense has continued to create turnovers, wreak havoc. Through 4 weeks, consistency has been there. Just how impressed are you with that unit to continue to do that each week?
Yeah, I think I'm most impressed with, there's 4 secondary players that have played a ton of football here. Those guys should go out and execute at a high level. They're all very close, really 5. They're all really close. They're good friends on and off the field. They should be able to go out and communicate, and because they're good players and they communicate at a high level, they should go execute really well. I'm really proud of the front 7 in the sense that those guys many of them, this is their first rodeo. So to be able to play consistently through the first, part of the season here, the first third of the season, if you will, It's been really good. It's been really good to watch Sherm. It's been really good to watch Dap. It's been really good to watch that linebacking core kind of find their groove with some good players that have moved on. You never want to see a Dan Bolden move on. You never want to see those type of, a Darius Alexander. You wish you could keep those guys forever. You wish they could play 10 years because they're so good. They're such good players and they're good people. But at the end of the day, if you got a good program, there's other people that are waiting patiently for their turn and their opportunity and their moment to go seize it. And to this point in time this season, those guys have done that at a high level.